here's what I do know about. Here's what I do know about the Federal Reserve. You're right. It was the United States Congress in 1913 that gave the powers of the Federal Reserve. That wasn't what was wrong with that move. What the Federal Reserve, what needs to happen with respect to the Federal Reserve is that Congress needs to do its job. Because Congress ultimately has the power over the Federal Reserve. And secondly, I don't believe we eliminate the Federal Reserve. Congress needs to exercise. Now, Congress can't dictate to the Federal Reserve, and I don't agree that they should, because then it becomes too political. But Congress is not doing its job of oversight of the Federal Reserve, because the Federal Reserve has made some decisions I don't agree with.
We can't even on it. We don't know where the money's going. We have no control of the Federal Reserve.
Yes, we can.
Huh?
Sorry, Chris, we can't audit it.
How come we got bills in front of Congress trying to force it then?
They won't have it.
It's a private banking cartel. We don't have any rights.
Okay, can y'all do me one favor? We are not going to solve the Federal Reserve issue here today. Okay, I promise you, we're not going to solve that one here today. I get calls on that all the time. Why is it that? Are you familiar with all of the audits that already go on in the Federal Reserve that are public knowledge?
Bernanke doesn't tell anybody.
Huh?
Bernanke doesn't tell anybody. He won't answer questions to Congress.
The Federal Reserve is one of the tightest run entities I have ever seen. But you have to go and ask. If you visit, you have the right. Here's a suggestion. Get some of your Tea Party folk together, call up the Federal Reserve office, and ask if you all can come down for a session to better understand the Federal Reserve. What internal controls do they currently have? They'll be willing to share it with you. They will. Most people think that it's some secrecy. They will, if you call and say, I want to better understand what you all do, they will sit down with you and explain it.
Without a FOIA request?
Huh?
Without a FOIA request?
Yes. What district is it? What Federal Reserve district is this? Does anybody know? Okay. You got 12 Federal Reserve districts. Is it Chicago? Okay, I don't know the number, but the Chicago is one. You got 12 Federal Reserve districts. So you find out which district you're in. You call that office and say you'd like to talk to someone that's in public relations or corporate relations, whatever, and say, look, we got a lot of questions about the Federal Reserve that we would like to better understand. That's how you approach it. Okay? Yes, sir.
Let me ask you a question. If you were elected president, would you ask for an audit of the Federal
But
Reserve?
first, we need to find out the audits that are already going on. What I'm saying is, this request for an audit, I'm not sure if that's the answer to any problem other than people think that they don't want to be audited. I talked to a Federal Reserve president, the Federal Reserve president of the Kansas City district. Want to know why? I used to be on that Federal Reserve board. I said, Tom, do you all object to an audit? He said, no. I said, why? He said, if you see all of the internal audits we already have going on, we'll be happy to do an audit. But people don't know that audits and internal control we already have. That's what I'm suggesting that you find out, okay? That's what I'm suggesting. See, let me make a... Is it on the Federal Reserve? No. You want to go to something else? Hard work, y'all. This is hard work. Here is a little tip that I would like to give you. I get called on the Federal Reserve all the time on my radio show. I said, have you called the Federal Reserve district that you're in and asked to talk to them to answer your questions? See, by saying, well, the Federal Reserve ought to be audited. How do you know? Are you working on the right problem? And until you know what they're already doing, don't conclude that that's going to solve anything. I'm not saying that maybe it should be an audit, but I can't delineate all those checks and controls. When I served on the Federal Reserve Board of Kansas City as a board member, citizen board of business people. And we would meet once a month. Listen to the report by the economists. Listen to the reports of everything that's going on. Listen to the reports about banking transactions. Listen to the report about the health of all of the banks in the district. Listen to reports about and get anecdotal feedback about the health of businesses in general, etc., and on and on and on and on. And then make a recommendation that the president would have to take the Greenspan, who was the head of the Federal Reserve at that particular point in time. One of the other things that we have to do as a member of the board is understand all of their auditing procedures, all of their check and balance procedures with the banks, internally and externally. So many of them, I got a headache. Sitting down listening to all that stuff. What I'm saying is, most people probably have not enough understanding of what already happens before we say we need to do an audit. Now, I've been on boards, we have to do an audit,